So I've read 36 books so far this year. Let's talk about them. I've seen the mid-year freakout book tag going around booktube and sounded really fun, so let's get into it. The first question is the best book you have read so far this year, and I will not shut up about this series. That is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. You've probably read it, and if you've watched my channel at all, you've probably heard about it. I read this in January. I was very late to the party, but I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love more with the world because I'd read Shadow and Bone previously. It is a story about 6 outcasts who perform this like insane heist to try and break out a prisoner, and they become found family along the way, and I love it. I love it so much. It's such a comfort story, which doesn't really make sense because it's like fantasy and people are like on the verge of death all the time, but something about these 6 characters bring me so much joy, and I love them so much. So the next question is the best sequel that you have read so far this year, and we are staying on the Leigh Bardugo train because that is Hellbent, which is the sequel to Ninth House, and this series follows Alex Stern, who starts at Yale and joins the Leaf, who is in charge of keeping track of the secret societies and all their paranormal activities to make sure they don't accidentally like destroy the world. And I really enjoyed the first book, but Hellbent just like took it up a notch for me. I am pretty sure I gave this book 5 stars. We get so much more insight into our characters. We learn a lot about Alex's backstory. There's a lot more of the found family vibe in this, which you will probably see a recurring theme throughout all these books in. I love the found family. There's a little bit of romance. The stakes are so high. They go to hell, hence the title. And if you know me again, you know that I love when characters go to hell. It's my favorite trope. So I absolutely love this book. It gave me the worst book hangover. Next question. New release you haven't read yet but you want to, and that is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I have heard such good things about this book. I am so excited to read it. It is definitely in my near future. This book is about author June Hayward, who basically steals her friend Athena Liu's story after she dies, about the unsung contributions of Chinese laborers during World War I, and she basically passes it off as her own work and turns her whole identity into this like racially ambiguous person to pass off as her having written this story. And it grapples with questions of diversity, racism, and cultural appropriation. It's supposed to be like a satire, smart, witty story, and I think it's going to be a really fun, really important read. So I'm very excited about this. The next question is most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I have 2 for this. One of them which will literally be out like a few days after this video comes out, and that is A Soul of Ash and Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and that is the 5th book, I believe, in the From Blood and Ash series, which is kind of a guilty pleasure series for me. I don't think it's like 5-star worthy. I don't think it's anything crazy special, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy the world. I enjoy the characters, and this book is written from Castiel's perspective, kind of recounting everything that has happened between him and, oh my gosh, I don't remember her name. Poppy. Her name's Poppy. He's recounting everything that happened between him and Poppy to try and save her life, I think. I honestly cannot remember how the last book ended, but I'm excited to get this. And then another book that I'm excited for that comes out a little bit later is The Brothers Hawthorne, which is, I believe, kind of a 4th book in the Inheritance Game series. I don't know if it's like actually a 4th book, if it's like a prequel. I honestly don't know anything about it. The Inheritance Games was one of my favorite series that I've read this year. So the next question is the biggest disappointment, and I kind of struggled to decide what book to choose for this because I feel like most of the books that I had high expectations for turned out to be really good, which is great, but I ended up choosing Heart of the Raven Prince, which is a Cinderella Fae retelling, and I read it recently in a Reading Fantasy for a Week video, and I had pretty high expectations because I've heard good things about it. Like, it sounded great, it sounded right up my alley. I love fantasy, I love Fae, but it fell so flat for me. I could not connect to the romance at all. I didn't care about the characters really. The only thing that saved it for me at all was the Cinderella aspects of it, because those are really fun, and kind of just the magic of the world was interesting to read about. But that's such a like side part of the story because it's a Cinderella retelling, so it focuses on the romance, and I didn't like it. It felt insta-love, and I felt like zero chemistry between the characters. The next question is the biggest surprise, and for this I have to say The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. I was recommended this book by ChatGPT. which if you want to see more about that, I did a video about it last week. I had like no expectations really going into this book. I didn't think I'd hate it, but it didn't really interest me. But I loved this book so much. It gripped me, like I could not put it down, and I can't even really tell you why other than it's just really, really good characterization. I read this book in like 2 or 3 days. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. The story itself is just so beautiful but realistic and happy and pure and like human. Our main characters in that book are just so incredible, and the chemistry and the romance develops so naturally. Next question is favorite new author, and I think I'm gonna say Lynn Painter because I had not read any of her books until this year, and I have still only read one. I read Better Than the Movies a couple months ago, but I absolutely loved it. It was so cute. Like I haven't had a book give me butterflies like that in such a long time. I loved it so much, and I can't wait to pick up more of her books, especially her like adult romances. Everything she's ever written basically is on my list because of that one book. Next question, newest fictional crush. And look, I hate to say it, but Wrath from Kingdom of the Wicked, I really loved him throughout this book. I am such a sucker for like fantasy men, and I know like in real life if a man treated me like this I would run the other way, but like it's so good in fantasy. Touch her and I'll kill you vibes, you know? I eat that up, and Wrath is like that throughout all of this. Like he's just so in love with Amelia. He like destroyed mountains for her, you know? He was ready to like kill his family for her. And like what more could you ask for? Okay, next question is newest favorite characters. I have 2, but they're from the same book, so it's fine. And I was just talking about it, but Leon and Tiffy from The Flatshare. I don't know what it is about their characters, but I love them so much. I'm like, I would do anything for these 2 characters. They are so pure and so good, and I just I love them so much, and they were so interesting to read about, and they were such unique voices. It felt very different from a lot of other books I've read. It made me feel so happy and like my heart so full reading about them and like the way they helped and healed each other. Next question is books that made you cry, and I have 2 for this one, and the first one is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I really enjoyed this book. It basically follows the 2 main characters throughout their friendship over like 30 years, and they build a video game company together and get like super famous for the video game they create. It's not like on the surface doesn't sound like it's about that much, but there's a lot of like relationships and drama and growing up and changing that we read about throughout all these years of their life, and you get so attached to them even though they're all very imperfect. And there's like a thing that happens in this book, which if you've read it you know what I'm talking about, that just absolutely broke me, and then I cried for like the rest of the book. That's one. The other one is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Once again, I must warn you, this is not a cutesy romance. This is, I would say, a contemporary fiction novel, much like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It deals with themes of mental health and loneliness. The 2 main characters, Harriet and Wynne, is that his name? That's his name, right? Yes. Were together for 8 years before they broke up, but they didn't tell their friends, so then they have to pretend to be together on a cottage vacation with their friends because it's their last summer that they're all gonna be there. And the physical pain this book caused me when these 2 people who loved each other so much but were so hurt were in the same room together was actually brutal. And the entire second half of this book I was like legit sobbing. It's also so beautifully poetically written. These characters feel so real. Definitely has found family vibes, and the friendship between the 3 main girls in this book was so lovely and such a good depiction of female friendship, which I absolutely love. Next book, a book that made you happy. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is by far my favorite book of hers. It's nice because I feel like her other books have been kind of copy-paste of each other a little bit, which I'm not complaining. I still read them, I still enjoyed them. This one definitely feels different. It follows Elsie and Jack, who are both physicists, and Elsie is a theoretical physicist and Jack is a experimental physicist, I think. I don't know science. And there's like rivals in their fields because of this letter that Jack wrote when he was like 18. So Elsie immediately hates him, but he's also one of the only people standing in her way of getting a job at MIT. It's kind of an enemies to lovers, but it feels very realistic and the chemistry is amazing. Ali Hazelwood writes the best banter, and I loved how like awkward and like cute and chaotic and cringe their relationship was. It felt very real to me and I really enjoyed that. and I think even though Jack is still like a tall, brooding man the way she always writes them, I think he had more depth in this book than some of the other male love interests. Elsie is like a chronic people pleaser in this, and she really goes through like a lot of character development, which was just really nice to read. Next question is favorite book to film adaptation. I don't know if we're talking just this year, because so far I feel like I haven't really seen any other than Shadow and Bone Season 2, which I really enjoyed, specifically the Six of Crows aspects of it. I am begging Netflix for a spin-off and a Season 3. I feel like the Shadow and Bone parts of the show felt quite rushed, which kind of sucked because they like packed the second and the third book into one season. But the Six of Crows parts were great, so I enjoyed that. I'm also so excited for Heartstopper Season 2, which is coming out August 3rd, I think, and it follows this graphic novel where they go to Paris, and it looks so cute and I can't wait. And also the Red, White, and Royal Blue movie is coming out on August 11th, which is also very exciting, and the trailer came out recently and it looks amazing. Speaking of Red, White, and Royal Blue, the next question is most beautiful book, and I very recently picked up this copy of Red, White, and Royal Blue. I don't know where it came from, but I saw it at Indigo and I thought it was cute, and I don't have the physical copy of this book because I read it on my Kindle, so I thought I'd buy it, and then I reread it before the movie's coming out. Pink and blue with a crown in the background. I don't really have any like special edition books, but I thought this one was really pretty, and it's also just very beautifully written. I should have annotated it while I reread it because there's so many lines in this book that I absolutely love. Last question is what books do I want to read by the end of the year? And this is the only one I have quite a few options for, but I'll go through them quick. First one is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I have literally started reading today, so progress, because I want to read this once again before the movie comes out. I've heard somewhat mixed reviews about this, so I'm a little bit scared. And then I also want to read the Caraval trilogy and the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. There's 2 books out right now, and I think there's a third one coming out this year. I've heard amazing things about Once Upon a Broken Heart, but it takes place after Caraval, and I don't think you have to read this series to read that one, but I would like to read this series first. Lastly is Fourth Wing, because I feel like I'm already so late to it, but the hype has been strong for it, and I love a fantasy romance book. I've heard amazing things from people on YouTube and people on TikTok and people in my life, so that's also high on my list. So those are all the questions. Let me know your answers to any of them down below. I would love to hear what you're reading and also get some more book recommendations. If you would like to, you can subscribe for new book videos every single week. Next week will be my birthday book haul, because the day you are watching this is the day before my birthday, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!